shows up, just let us know.
You got it.
Thank you. Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask Angela to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abedili.
Present.
Hearn.
Present.
Koshulik.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Tangney present. Administrator Ed Hoops.
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Barnstable Recreational Department, Ralph Clausen, 56 Sandpoint LLC, Thomas Snyder, Stephen and Wendy D'Angelo, Mark and Barbara Kilman, Matthew and Daniel Ciolletti. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government's X channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending emails requests to @hoops@230 South Street, Hyannis. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this hearing. Hearing none. Tonight's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participation. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed up by the Governor on March 28, 2025, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comments can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 849-6560-6324 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email the comments to edwin.hoops@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Before I go on, is Pete here?
I don't see him.
Yeah. I didn't see him sign up.
Let's do the old new and business until Pete show up. We have 2 RDA. The first one is the Barnstable Recreational Departments to install MobiMat at Kelmuck's Beach to increase accessibility at 670 Ocean Street, Hyannis, as shown on the Assessors Map 324, Parcel 041. John?
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. I've been here 2 previous times and looking to do the similar thing. We have a new boardwalk at Calmus, but doesn't extend as far as it used to. So I would like to put down 100 feet of MobiMats to increase access to the beach and, just help out any beachgoers that want to enjoy, the beaches for the summer and in the fall.
Is there a plan that you can share with us or can Ed put on the plan?
Yeah, maybe while Ed's putting it up, it's to the back beach to Lewis Bay. It's 100 feet of MobiMats that just bring people further down to where people sit and enjoy the beach.
Yeah, I just want to show it on the screen so that the public can see it.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm having trouble getting in there. If you have any questions, go ahead. I'll try and get this up as quick as I can.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioner?
Yes.
John?
Just a quick question. I think, as in the past, these pads are lifted up for the winter and stored somewhere. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, they'll be brought in sometime in mid to late October, and they'll be stored in our bathhouse for the off season, and then come, springtime, we'll put them back down.
Okay. Do you anticipate where these mats are placed, that there'll be any vegetation that'll be killed?
No, it will impact no vegetation. It's just it's basically an extension of the current boardwalk that was placed down. It's just to go further. The old boardwalk went a lot further down into the beach, and the new one is shorter. So I just wanted to increase the length and make it easier for people to walk down to the back of the beach.
Great. Thank you. Sounds good to me.
Thank you, John. Any other question from the
Yeah. I do. I
Bill?
have a question. Yeah. Just concerning like the piping plover and the tern nesting, is that hasn't been a problem at that beach, but what is the status of the review or concerns about the endangered birds over there?
I believe this will have no impact. It won't go in any areas where the birds would have been roped off. It's a regular path where people walk normally, and there's no impact to vegetation or the birds.
Right. I mean that's the way it's been normally. Just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
So the screen is showing you your proposed path for that Moby mat. Right, John?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's an old Google image, so it might be slightly different, but that's what it is the boardwalk goes to the back of the beach, and from the end of the boardwalk currently, it would be 100 feet from there.
Okay. Thank you, John. Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this one? Channel 18? Channel 18 may be busy.
Does anybody want to speak about this matter from the public? Doesn't look that way, Tom.
Yeah. Any public want to make any comment on this applications? Hearing none. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem. The second RDA is Ralph Crossan's remove the rear deck on Gray and expand the basements to the same locations and size at 162 Main Street, Osterville, as shown on the Assessors Map 165, parcel 073. Is Ralph with us? Ralph Crossan? No.
Why don't you table it for now?
Yeah. I have to table this into the next hearing on the 15th. Unless it's all up while we're having another meeting, so. And then we have 5 NOIs tonight. The first one is 56 Sandpoint LLC to construct an additions to the existing dwelling at 56 Sandpoint, Osterville, as shown on the Assessors Map 073, parcel 017. John?
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the applicant. I will work to bring up the plan for you all. As was stated, this project's located at 56 Sandpoint in Osterville. This is about a 1 acre parcel. It was originally carved off in the 50s and developed with the house shortly thereafter. It was rebuilt under a conservation permit. Wetland resources are land under ocean, being North Bay. Coastal bank, there is a bulkhead, permitted bulkhead along the bottom of it. Land subject to coastal storm flowage. We are looking to construct a very small addition off the southeast corner of the house. It's within an existing area of lawn. It is separated from the bank by a couple of tiers of permitted landscape retaining walls. It's a total of 211 square feet. There really isn't any great place to supplement any additional mitigation along this shorefront, kind of given the configuration of the existing landscaping and walls, etc. So we have proposed to remove an equivalent area of driveway over on the north side of the property so that there is no increase in hardscape, and then we would plant that area of removed driveway with native plantings. So we actually end up with a reduction in hardscape within the 50-foot buffer, and getting some good native plants right by the marsh border up on that north side of the property. So I really don't think that this small addition would have any impact on the stability of the bank or this developed portion of the buffer zone. And we think that removing driveway and providing plantings on the other side would certainly be beneficial to the resource and buffer over there. I think with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. One thing I forgot to mention to add to relay the message is if we approve this project, I think that I want to get a revised plan showing some dimensions on the additions, on the proposed additions. Right now, you have a proposed square foot of 211 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a minor thing to do. Questions, Bill?
When was the parking lot built into the wetland down on the side that you're planning to reduce in size? That's question one. When was that put in? I thought that was amazing that there's a parking lot just cut right into a salt marsh, and not a good thing. And when you do reduce the size of that, can you describe a little bit about what you're going to do in terms of trying to restore wetland there? It's like there's gravel and kind of a wall and whatnot. How are you going to restore that as a wetland? It's sitting right in a wetland. I couldn't believe it.
It is. So the area, I think, had historically been a grass parking area. As I said, I think that the site was originally developed in the late 50s, early 60s. The gravel went in later. It did receive a certificate of compliance under the house rebuild process. In terms of
when was that? When did it get that?
The house got its certificate of compliance roughly within the last 5 years.
Really? Okay.
I can get a date on that. Yeah, that SE number was 5208. The town is saying the house was rebuilt in 2014, so I can get an exact date on that certificate of compliance. So we would propose that the gravel be scraped off, and then the area planted, and the fence could be reconfigured around that to ensure the protection of those plants. I don't think, the grading is what the natural grading is there. I don't think that this was an elevated landform or anything. I don't think fill was brought in there. I think it's just how it's been maintained. So we would simply just be removing the gravel and then restoring that area with plants.
The salt marsh, I mean, right now it's phragmites for the most part, right up on the edge there. I mean, it's wetland just right up to the edge of that. So,
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Any other question from the commissioner?
Yes.
John?
What is the addition? What is that? What is going to be in the addition? Just out of curiosity.
I believe that this end of the house is the master bedroom. And, I think as much as anything that this is about trying to mirror, I mean, this is basically an exact mirror of the other end of the building from an aesthetical purpose outside. But it will be just sort of additional living space in what I believe is the master bedroom.
Oh, is there a foundation under it, John?
I don't believe there would be a full foundation underneath this addition. I think it would just be a crawl space.
Crawl space.
And I'm just curious because although the salt marsh, as Bill rightly points out, needs a good deal of protection, we're trading off something that abuts North Bay. On the other hand, and I'm just hesitant that is this trade-off of the salt marsh area and removal of the gravel driveway enough relative to the additional footprint within the 0 to 50? That's a question I'm just struggling with, I have to say. Is it a good trade-off from an environmental point of view, or is the environment losing something because of the North Bay, the critical situation in North Bay? Just throwing that as a question in my mind for maybe Bill or somebody else to comment on.
I'd comment on that.
Okay, go ahead.
If I could. I looked at that addition, and it is a very a rather small section that's in the 0 to 50. It's like it juts into the 0 to 50 about 3 feet, and it varies because it's a trapezoidal shape, and it could be like 8 feet wide and maybe 3 feet deep. And because it's a bank, a town bank, it's further than 50 feet from the resource area. In other words, you've got all of that vegetated hillside, and it is indeed quite vegetated. So you actually, you have that, if you will, filtering effect that we talk so much about before you hit the salt marsh. And the top of the bank, you're concerned about how stable is that bank? And I felt like, well, it's a very modest encroachment on the 0 to 50 to the bank, and you also have that wall, that retaining wall, and so I felt like the bank itself is very stable, and you've got on the order of 70 feet before you hit the salt marsh down there. So I thought, if you can at least mitigate over on that parking lot, which to me personally, I just think is like kind of outrageous. And it would be great if you could even increase the size of that mitigation area just to restore the salt marsh over on the parking lot. But I didn't think that little encroachment really was much of a threat to the actual resource area, the salt marsh below, or the stability of the bank. That was my thinking.
So, Bill, you're saying, in your opinion, it is a good trade-off. Is that what you're saying?
It's a reasonable trade-off. I would take as much mitigation as I could over on a parking lot.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah, if you notice on the drawing, the 50-foot is for the town bank. So, and then you have that retaining wall. So environmentally on that side is very, very minimum.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Pete just called me and he will be in about 10 minutes or so. He's trying to get in.
Okay, great.
Angela?
Yeah, I agree with the other two commissioners. Thank you, Tom. It seems like they just want to bump it out to be a match for, I don't know what reasons, aesthetics or whatever. But the more we can get out of that salt marsh area, the better. So I just agree with them. Whatever we can put back in there would be a great help. It looked like they were planting beach plum and inkberry there, but it's right against a lot of phragmites on that side at the property line. So anything we can do to give back right there would be okay with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public?
No, not yet. Ed, for that small area, do we need any report?
I don't think so. I think it's a small enough area that, so I think it's what, 200 square feet, maybe a little less than that, John?
It was a match, so
A match, okay,
211
two,
for
yeah.
211. Okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project with subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the additional dimensions for the proposed additions?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Koshulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you
John.
very much, everyone.
Yep. The second NOI is Thomas Snyder to construct a patio area in the rear of an existing single-family home at 191 Stony Point Road, Barnstable, as shown on the Assessors Maps 336, parcel 028. Dan?
Good evening, Chairman Lee, members of the commission. For the record, Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouth Port, and helping the Schneiders out with their fairly recently purchased property up here in 191 Stony Point. I'll pull up the map. It's a fairly straightforward project. There's a retaining wall with some plantings that were recently approved. And instead of a lawn, we'd like to do dry set slate type patio blocks in the back. And it's a very level area, not much runoff. And I feel that what little runoff there would be captured nicely in the buffer strip behind that. There's a resource areas are simply, there's a wetland way to the west, some phragmites, BVW, and then there's a technical state coastal bank that is somewhat near locus, but we're full 50 feet off of the BVW, the wet resource areas, and not disturbing this. The existing wall will act like a nice little work limit line. So we're basically just peeling up turf lawn and putting down a patio. It's a nice inert substance, no fertilizers or insecticides, needed for a fat and water use for the patio. So we feel that will be a better situation than what's there now. Ed did ask, I think there was a preliminary review and had asked about a drainage pipe that was in the area. There's an old drainage pipe that shows up on Ed Kelly's plan from '88, and I'm sure it's 20 years, 30 years older than that, but there's a big field on the east, and there's a small, I think it's a 6-inch drain pipe that runs underneath, and daylight's down there. And I believe it's only the heavier rainfalls that you'll get any flow out of that, but that's the source of this little tiny drain pipe right there. So again, no, we're not touching that at all. It's an old existing condition. The slope is very stable down gradient, so no real issues. So those existing plantings will remain, and be glad to answer any questions if you do have them. Our narrative went through your performance standards, but again, pretty straightforward, replacing lawn for a nice inert patio. Be glad to answer any questions, and it's outside of the 50. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any question from the commissioner? Bill?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this project. It's true that the 0 to 50 is completely vegetated, although it is vegetated with largely grapevines, which I thought was interesting. But I just wanted to mention that, Dan, you might pass on to the homeowner that they've got on the north side of where the proposed patio is, in that corner of their lot there. It's just chock-a-block full of Japanese knotweed, which is a significant invasive species, and it's kind of localized. Just a heads up, maybe they might want to get rid of that.
I'll bring that up to them. That's something they could probably handle, and we could
But I
work
mean,
with that to get a
but
native species growing instead of those. Yeah, those are.
I mean, that's a nasty thing. Yeah, but I think the project's. I'm good with it.
Thank you, Bill. Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Then I'm looking for a revised plan showing some dimensions on the proposed patio. Plus, if you can give us the top of the wall height on the retaining wall.
Yeah, and that's going to remain in place. So I'd be
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
to do that. They're about 3-foot squares on the patio. It's drafted there, but I'll put some overall dimensions to help refine that.
Yeah, and then just put top of the wall elevations. That's all we need.
Sounds good.
Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the additional dimension on the proposed patio and the top of the wall elevations?
Excuse me, did you ask for public on this, or?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
There's no public comment on this one.
Motion.
So, motion.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Kern,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you. Peak is not here yet.
There's a 508 number trying to sign in. It could be him.
Okay.
I think that might be Mr. Crossan for the RDA, the 508 number.
Is that true? 508 number with the 508? Well, let's move on for now. The next NOI is Stephen and Wendy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Ralph Cross. I'm sorry. I guess I didn't have Zoom on my computer. But I'm here now.
Okay, let's go back to the RDA on a second one. Let me read that descriptions and then you can talk about your project stuff. Ralph Cross remove the rear deck on grade and expand the basements to the same locations and size at 162 Main Street, Osterville, as shown on the assessors map 165 parcel 073. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yes, a couple of the commissioners came out the other day and viewed it. It's an over and under deck, kind of on a slope, this house. So the basement's like a walkout basement. But the deck below is the only one we're talking about. What they want to do is extend the slab from inside the basement out to that space that bottom deck is sitting on now. That bottom deck is sitting right on the ground, and it's 13 by 32. So that's it. We're not going outside the footprint, but because the project's within the 100-foot setback, we thought would apply.
Thank you. Any question from the commissioner? Any question from the commissioner twice?
No.
No, we've seen it, and it's, yep.
Okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye, that's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ralph. Good luck.
Thank you, and thank you. Yeah.
The third NOI of the evening is Stephen and Wendy D'Angelo to remove an existing ramp and float system and permit a new pier ramp and float at 108 Long Beach Road, Sandyville, as shown on the Assessors Map 206, parcel 005. Dan?
Good evening, again, Chairman Lee and members of the commission. For the record, Dan Ojala with Downkeep Engineering, helping the D'Angelos out with permitting of a little bit of an expansion on their dock. This is, as you can see from the locust map in the upper right corner, I'll zoom in on a little bit of a dead end off the Centerville River. It's not one that's in the main channel, but you can see as you come down off Craigville Beach Road, you're going down Long Beach Road, it's that first little inlet there. And so not very far to the east of us, I think there's another 3 or 4 piers, and then the end of that little embayment there. So, and that's just a point of clarification that, you know, if we were further down on the river, the hazard of navigation might be a little bit more of an issue than it is up on this dead end. And there's an aerial photograph, I think, that's helpful at the end of the NOI that they can view on that. So it's a small lot, but you can see here the D'Angelo residence is across the street at 103. And then, as typical with a number of these, they own a little piece on the north side of Long Beach, and that's where the pier for the house is. You know, it's a big property on the water, but you don't want a pier on the open sound because of wave damage and so forth. It's just not suitable. So many of these houses were set up with dock lots on the Centerville River. So that's what they have, and they desire a little bit bigger boat. And again, it's a dead end strip. There's quite a bit of water when you go out a little ways. So what the proposal is to go out until we have a little over 3 feet of water at mean low tide. That allows for a good sized boat, which you've got the specs on it there. We put the 2 floats with 2 big 12-inch piles to hold that in place. I think it's important to look at the overview. Here's an aerial view that sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, but there's the little stub of a pier we have now, which really isn't big enough for a good sized boat. And those 2 markers here and here are the buoys that we set at the end of the float. And so that's what it sticks out. The neighbor across the way has a pretty significant pier. But again, it's a dead end a couple hundred feet to the east or actually we're looking south here, so it'd be to the west of us, but to the right on the picture is the dead end. So you can see there's some good maneuvering room. You know, one of the neighbors did comment that, you know, we're out in the channel and it could be, you know, objectionable, but I think that you can see here that we're not particularly far out. We don't extend as far as some of the neighbors. We're a little bit proud of the neighbor on the west, but not very much. And it's a dead end. So it's 74 feet even with the boat across the Centerville River to the other side. So I think we can all agree for the little boats that are in here, that's pretty reasonable. There are also, I would of note, some floats that people anchor boats on, licensed out in the middle. It's that dead end. It's just it's not an area that has a lot of traffic. So it's a pretty typical design. The modification is we're going to remove the existing pier ramp and float. It's 22 foot long, 14-foot gangway, and 2 6x12 floats, which is the 200 square foot that you do generally allow. No workers in priority estimated habitat. The old dock, it was a 1997, 99-year license. But you know, instead of reconstructing it and it's in fairly shallow water, again, the 2.8 is the NAVD 8 elevation, and you have to subtract almost 2 feet of that to get to mean low water. So there's not much water at the existing pier. It would really be a disservice to try and get much of a boat up in there. So we'd need the length. We feel that it's not unreasonable. The resource areas, based on our recent soundings, we're going to be able to attain 3.3 feet of mean low water in the floats, and it's low shellfish habitat, so the minimum water depth would be 12 inches, and where the existing configuration isn't even close to that, by extending the dock above the 25 feet, we're able to attain the 12 feet between the prop and the bottom, lessening turbidity impacts. Land containing shellfish, it's a low value for shellfish habitat. John Lowell, longtime shell fisherman, and checked it out, and just a sparse oyster population on the stone wall nearby, nothing at all out under there. It's just muck and not suitable habitat. Based on that survey, the proposed work, we feel will have no adverse impacts on the shellfish. The fish runs 310 CMR 10.35. Although the Centerville River is considered a fish run, the area where the pier is located is more of a cove and not part of the direct route on the river, as I'd mentioned, and you can see on the assessors. A total of 3 sets of piles, 10 feet apart, are proposed. 2 piles for the float. It's non-leaching wood preservative would be utilized on the pilings below mean high water. Would expect that negligible impacts from the construction and the existence of the small pier system. The pilings would be initially jetted and then driven 15 feet or refusal. We go through your 703.4 compliance. Those are very important. That's your pier regulations. It's accessory to the 103 Long Beach Road. 103. I guess I did say that right. Long Beach Road, the D'Angelo residence across the street. Both properties under the same ownership. Dwelling was 1948. Currently used seasonally. A total of, I'm just going through the ABC, the 8 12-inch piles are proposed. Lighting would conform to your regulations, less than 25 watt incandescent or the equivalent LEDs set 12 foot apart, 2 foot off the surface. Timers not allowed. Switches at the beginning and the end of the pier is how we go in Barnstable. We'll have the longshore access that's required. You can see here we've got a full 5 feet to walk under the pier. That's an acceptable methodology of doing that. DP permanent number would be placed on the dock and visible seaward. Floating ramp will be in the owner's upland yard in the gravel parking area, not near the wetland. Again, that's 2 6x12s. That comes out to 200 square foot, just less than 200 square foot, and it's 3.3 feet of water underneath them. So that's compliant. 4 foot width on the dock, and the plank spacing will be the 3/4 inch minimum. So one thing here is that the lot frontage is only 25 feet. It's a small, again, it's a dock lot. The total width of the pier from mean high water is 42. Therefore, we would need a variance due to the relatively small lot size. But again, I think the commission could take note that they have huge frontage on the water across the street at 103, and they're not able to put a pier there. So in all fairness, perhaps with the dock lots, we could find that exception. There's no specific marked channel here. The deepest part is about 26 feet off the floats. The closest float across the channel is about 85 feet from our proposed float, 84.8. And even with the boats berthed at Locust and the float across the channel, still plenty of room, over 50 feet. It's 73 feet, less a little bit for their boat. So quite a bit of room. It's not possible, due to the width of the cove and the existing piers and floats, it's not possible to attain a 35-foot separation to the historically used channel, which is just an access way to the piers, a couple of them to our east, and fishing and whatnot that might wander up into this cove, but it's not heavy traffic. We would request a variance from that requirement due to the existing set of circumstances, a constricted area, which is common on the Centerville River. The pier extends about 42 feet from mean high water, 25 feet longer than the current pier. You can see that here, the pier ramp and float, the whole assembly. And that's to get that proper separation for a good sized boat off the end of the float. The width of the waterway is about 200 feet, 20% is 40 feet. So the variance is requested given the beam width of the vessels. It's less than 200 foot width at the cove at mean low water. The small cove is typically used to access to navigable waters from the existing piers in the cove area, since it's so restricted for any other activity. And again, I keep hitting on that, but the key is that it's just a little dead end that we're on here. It's not the main river where people are going out to the Sound and back all day. Proposed length under K is 25.5 feet longer. The added length allows us to operate, the owner's boat to operate with sufficient depth at low water while allowing access to the other piers in the cove. Due to the nature of the area, boats will be operating at low speed at idle in preparation for docking or departing in this area. Under L, centering the lot, the pier is centered on the lot and the angle is close to perpendicular to the shoreline, so that is met. Under M, the shellfish, it's low value shellfish with the town maps and prohibited shellfish growing area according to the state maps. The length of the pier conforms to the requirement for the depth at this area, minimum 12-inch at mean low water. And under 2, 3, and 4, we comply with the regulations for the draft, 27-inch draft, and you've got another 12 inches to mean low water, and that no unconventional drives are proposed. That's the normal props. Under N, it's not an ACEC, so not applicable. Under O, the increase in length of the pier will not interfere with public access to or from the current docks. The area is not commonly used for sailing. P is a similar methodology. Q, no boat lift, elevator, davits proposed, and R, no improvement dredging is proposed. This channel was, mucked out some years back, and it's got a good amount of water in it. The Lowell report is attached. You've got all zeros on the transects in there. There's absolutely no shellfish anywhere on the bottom. We did unfortunately have the Shellfish Committee not have quorum and got continued until August, I believe. And then Waterways is a little ways out as well. That's the nature of it, and we're happy to to talk to them about the navigability in this area. But again, there's quite a bit of area to maneuver, and it's a reasonably short pier, ramp, and float given the area and some of the others around it. So I would leave it there. It looks like we may, according to your traditions, want to have Waterways and Shellfish check in before you make your final decision, but be glad to hear abutters if they have anything to say or any comments from the commissioners, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. A couple of things I just was going through here. Number one, before I forget, Pete just joined us about 7:05.
Got it. Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very frustrating. I'm sorry for the lateness.
No, that's okay. You're here. Elizabeth, the town biologist, has sent us an email this afternoon. She had a chance to do the survey on 108 Long Beach Road in Sandoval River last week. It is really a mud pit. Natural Resources has no objections to the proposal at this time. There is one abutter that Dan mentioned it. His name is Dave Wallace. Is right on the next parcel on the north side. Let me see here.
West.
West. It's 112 Long Beach Road. Two comment that he has is one, the proposed dock is located in the middle of the dredge channel. And second, the proposed both sides will hang over the property line of and interfere with both abutter properties. 108 Long Beach Road is approximately 25 feet wide. So that's the width of the parcel. So if you look at the aerial that then show you the boats that they have on the next neighbor, Dan, can you send us a copy of the slide that you have on that boat?
Yeah, absolutely. I did email it to Ed earlier today, so he should be able to share it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the image there that was taken on the 30th, just a week or so ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
John?
Yes, thank you, Tim. Well, visiting the site, Dan, I was impressed by a number of things, but let me ask you a question. What is the percent increase from the existing dock and float to the new dock and float?
Well, it would easily double, right? Because we've got the depth there is probably about 20 to 42. So, you know, it's a doubling in terms of percentage.
It's a doubling of the existing.
Yeah.
Second question that I had is what boat is on there now? A proof of that, if there is one, do you know?
I do not know. It's 6539. I could look through and see. Again, it was a fairly old file, so I don't know if you were permitting boats at that time. I would have to
So there
check
may
on
be
that.
no spec boat on it now.
I'm unsure of that.
That's fine. As a boater, I looked at that, Dan, and I've got to very respectfully disagree when you said it's some of the little boats. There are some pretty big boats. This particular boat is 36 feet with triple engines and has a beam of almost 12 feet, 11 and a half. So if you took your little, where the pilings would be placed, you have to add another 13 feet or so, maybe more, for that boat to be docked there. So now you're significantly cutting into a narrower part of the Centerville River. If you look to the right of that, the Centerville River is much wider than where this dock would be placed. It's a heavy-duty boat. It's not a little boat by any imagination. I must say, from a navigation point of view, I have a lot of difficulty allowing that significant of an expansion. Also, and you look at your drawing, look at the neighbors to the left, the neighbors to the right, how far their floats go out versus what you are asking for. It's an increase over both the one on the left and the right. So I'm sitting here saying, geez, if we approve this and the guy on the left comes in, he wants the one equally as long, or the one on the right equally as long. So I have to say, from a navigation point of view, especially without hearing from the harbor master and waterways, I really have a lot of trouble approving this. I would not have trouble approving a 2 or 3 foot because it's a little shorter now than the neighbors, but to go beyond that and add a 12 foot or 11 and a half foot beam boat really troubles me.
Thank you, John. Bill?
What John said, he just said everything that I would say. And so I support John's comments. I'm in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. When I look at this, especially with on the design plan, the boat, the distance between the to the float to the pier, to the float to the west side is only 18.7 feet, and that one on the drawing, it does not show the boat. In the area, it's kind of showing the boat. So I'm wondering, how is that going to happen when you place that on the drawing, and how much distance you needed for the other boat to navigate? It would be tough. That's my just,
Tom, if I could just add on to that, just look at that drawing. You can see where this pier is a narrower part of the Centerville River than, say, to the right of that, which is, you can see is wider. Secondly, just looking at the picture, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boats that have to go in and out of that area. So when you put a 36 footer with triple engines and an 11 and a half foot beam there, with the amount that that the applicant wants to add on to this, that's why, from a navigation point of view and as a boater, I have a lot of difficulty. Dan, I would not have difficulty if you kind of equalizing what you're asking for with the neighbors to the left and the right, but you're asking for much more than that, Dan, in my opinion.
Right.
If we had to dredge just a smidge on the side, would that be objectionable off the cuff, or what would you think about just a little bit more depth on that for the motors?
I don't know. I'd have to see that. Dredging line. There is no shellfish habitat there. Correct. But it would be improvement dredging, which we generally do not approve. So it's not before us. So I would not, as a commissioner, dare to answer that at this time.
Fair enough.
Right. Pete?
Yeah, so I heard a good amount of this, and I'll mull it in, but Dan, my real big worry, and my fellow commissioners, I'll reiterate, is precedent setting. If this goes in with this massive boat, I am sure, as Mr. Abadili said, everyone else is going to want that, and there just is not room there. So thank you for consideration.
Thank you, Pete. I don't think you have to mow them in because you're in already. So, Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, Pete, you were here for the top discussion. I got you. Yeah, I'm not comfortable at all till we hear from Waterways or the Harbor Master. I feel like they need to be heard before we make any decisions. So I'm not comfortable with approving this at all. And I don't think they meet until what, the 22nd, which is right? The 22nd of July. So I think we're waiting for that. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Dan, is that what that Waterway is meeting, the next meeting to hear this applications?
Yes, it is 7/22.
7/22? Okay. I think we hear enough from the commissioner. 10/18, any public comment on this one? Is Sarah?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Sarah Alger. I heard from David Wallace late this afternoon, who asked me to come on his behalf because he wasn't able to attend. He and his wife, Patricia, own the property at 112 Long Beach Road. You read in his comments. And I agree with most of the commissioner comments with what the harbor master wrote in, as well as the comments of the Division of Marine Fisheries concerning the long-term impacts to shellfish and fish. Even though there aren't currently shellfish there, doesn't mean that this extension of the stock wouldn't have impacts on those resources. But more importantly, this dock extension, which is significant, it's more than doubling the length of the dock. Requires a variance from that requirement, is putting the boat out into what is currently the dredged area that everyone uses to pass and repass on the river. Whether or not that channel is marked, that's actually where the dredging was done and where the traffic goes back and forth. Putting a boat out there on this dock, which my client tells me historically has been used for kayaks, is really going to impede navigation. It's also just going to have a terrific impact on the usability of my client's existing licensed pier. If you look at that site plan, if that dock is extended out where they're asking and a boat is put on it, my client's ability to come in and out of his existing licensed dock is going to be dramatically impacted, and at certain conditions, particularly wind conditions, he may not be able to use it at all. The boat seems overly large. It's extremely wide. It does have 3 engines. It's wider than the property. And I think it's interesting that I think it was the harbor master mentioned that another project, a similar project in a similar area, if not this very property, was actually previously denied. And I'd like to have an opportunity to look into that and do a little bit of research. So I would agree that at a minimum, you should be continuing this until you hear further from Waterways and the harbor master.
Tom, may I ask Counselor a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Council, nice to see you again. How you doing?
Thank you. Nice to see you too, Mr. Trevor.
Could you tell me looking at this picture that's on the screen, where is Mr. Wallace's boat or dock? Which one is it?
He's immediately to the west.
Oh, right next to it. So it would be on the left-hand side facing the water. Okay.
Right.
Where it's being served. Okay, great. Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I would agree, by the way.
Yeah.
It would make it far more difficult because what you tend to do is to turn the boat around so that your boat is facing bow out. That means he's got to make a turn somewhere in that area. It would be, I would think, as a boater, far more difficult for Mr. Wallace.
So just to follow, Sarah's clients, David Wallace, is 112 Long Beach Road.
Correct.
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 Thank you. 10:18, any more public comment on this one?
I have a comment.
Go ahead,
Paul, can you
Yes,
tell us your address?
98 Long Beach Road. We are the abutters upstream from the proposed project and neighbors with Stephen and Wendy D'Angelo, whom we have a very good relationship with. And I want to say out of the gate that the dock they have is very small, and we're supportive of them getting something more, so that they can enjoy boating on the river as we do. And I know that they're dependent on the experts' views here. We've looked at this only over the long weekend, so we haven't had a lot of time to process it. I would say we also have to rely on the experts, and I would say that the concerns expressed by the commissioners were the ones that we had articulated, but would certainly be interested in working with them to help them find a way to have a more suitable dock to be able to enjoy the river. If there are anything that we can do in terms of fact sharing of facts, we'd be happy to do that. I think my only question is, what is the process going forward? I heard reference to the Waterways Committee. I'm just curious if that's a public hearing and if there's more process, a further hearing by this committee that we would attend. And I'm sorry, I should have introduced my wife, Carol Ann, and my sister-in-law, Sharon, are here. They are actually the co-owners of the property.
Mr. Cushing, could you, on that picture, show us where you're located or where your dock is located, sir?
Yes, so you have the hand on it right there.
On the right-hand side, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the right side of our property. Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Wallace is on the left and you are on the right of the dock in question.
Yeah,
Right.
and the project is in the center there, and there was a question earlier about what boat is on, and for seasons there has been a boat, a renter had put a boat, and I think that's probably the one that you see in the picture here.
Okay.
A renter had a boat on that dock, and I'd say it's probably a 21, 22-foot boat.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
And sorry, is there an answer to the process question? We just want to.
Yeah, okay.
Process-wise, the Waterways Committee have a hearing. Basically, it's a public hearing. And they would ask for comment and stuff like that. And then by the time they finish, they will try to give us a comment from their perspective-wise, whether there will be a navigation issues or whether there is any concern from them. They will send us their comment. And I'm sure that they will mention that in that hearing in terms of what they decided to make a recommendations. And then when we receive the recommendations from them, and these projects will be on a continuance track into a future date that I'll be discussing with Dan, and then Dan has to kind of looking at their comment and see whether there is any adjustment that he can make, and maybe something that you can work with them and see whether there is anything that can possible to give them some order, but not in the current form.
Thank you. And so in that process, it sounds like there's further opportunity to comment if we want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Commissioner, did I say it correctly or not?
Yeah, I think we need to see whether Dan wants to ask for a continuance or whether he wants a decision made tonight.
Well, to me, I think we should wait because we don't have any comment from the Waterway and Harbor Master stuff.
Tom, we have no right to demand a continuance. We can ask the applicant.
Right.
100% though, as I said in my presentation, I understand your procedures. Almost always you wait for waterways and even shellfish, even though it's low habitat. So it's completely your call. I think if we schedule something somewhat after, was it July 22nd, then I think, unless you were concerned about the shellfish, I think the waterways hazard and navigation is probably but if you want to wait until August 13th or so when the shellfish will meet, then we'll have to wait then too. But the pleasure of the board, the extension is granted as you see fit.
So you're asking for a continuance, Dan?
Continuance to a date certain, so that everyone knows when it is, after the 22nd for sure. And if I believe it was like August 13th-ish that shellfish was going to meet because they just missed a meeting with no quorum.
So the only available date after the 13th is August the 19th.
Yeah, I think that might be the one we'll have to go to because of the shell. If you'd like to wait until shellfish, as you traditionally do.
Is it necessary, if I might, Tom? Is it necessary to wait for shellfish?
No.
I mean, I don't think that we do.
Yeah.
I think Liz Lewis weighed in, and it's just simply not shellfish habitat to be really concerned with, probably for, I want to say the long term. I hate to say that, but
It's more than a navigation issue, Bill. I think
and so August 5th is a meeting date that we would have after the July 22nd waterways meeting. And
I'm getting the feeling from this commission that no matter what Waterways says, you're looking for a little bit shorter pier. And we went through a similar process just to the east of us not too long back, and we understand that. So we'll get with the owner and see if we can compromise a bit on things, and we'll be back for the August 5th. That was at 7 p.m. or 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
So August
5th. After waterways and with a shorter pier.
Right.
Very likely, yes, very likely.
But I have a motion to continue these applications to August the 5th.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Abedili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Aye. Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney. Aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, Dan.
We'll see you then. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
The next NOI is Mark and Barbara Kilman's demolition of existing 3-bedroom dwelling and reconstruct a new 3-bedroom dwelling with relocated septic system at 231 Fifth Avenue, West Hyannisport, as shown on the assessors map 245, parcel 040. Matt Eddie?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter Engineering and Surveying, representing Mark and Barbara Clayman of 231 Fifth Ave LLC. The notice of intent before you tonight is to raise the existing 3-bedroom house that exists on the lot and rebuild it with a new 2-story 3-bedroom home. I'd like to share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll just walk through the site plan real quick. This is the existing conditions plan that you're looking at. This is the existing house here. We have Salt Marsh down here, Riverfront, which is off the subject, property work area, if you will. So Salt Marsh, 50-foot buffer, 100-foot buffer to the Salt Marsh. Here's Fifth Ave here on the right. And the entire lot also falls within the floodplain land subject to coastal storm flowage. With a elevation AE12, and you can see the highest elevation on the lot is right around here, about 7.5 feet or so. Existing septic system out front here, an old septic system, not even really any good permits on file. I'm not even sure it's a Title V system. But with that, I will just jump to the proposed site plan. So we have the new house footprint being proposed. It falls generally within the same footprint of the existing. If you can see underneath this gray line that falls along here, that is the existing house footprint. So where it's being expanded, if you will, is here for the garage over the existing paved driveway, and then being expanded slightly here for additional living space. The footprint is being reduced from the existing. There's existing hardscape that falls in the 50-foot buffer. If I just jump back to here real quick, you can see the corner of the existing house. It's in the 50-foot buffer. We have pulled this corner in a little bit. That deck and stairs falls right about here. So with that, there has been a reduction in the overall hardscape in the 0 to 50-foot buffer. As you can see, the majority of this work falls within the 50 to 100-foot buffer. We've held the house as far forward on the lot as we can from a zoning perspective, as a 20-foot front setback, 10-foot side setbacks, which again, the existing house goes side setback to side setback. It's a new Title V septic system being proposed. Again, we have held that right up to the front property line where the existing one is. So we're holding that same setback, and then we need to have a minimum setback from that proposed septic upgrade to the house. So again, we've pulled everything as far forward as we can. And with that, we've been able to, again, slightly reduce that hardscape within the 50-foot buffer. So it ends up with an overall net reduction of hardscape in the 50-foot buffer. Work within the floodplain. We have the proposed finished floor being raised above flood. Under the new building code, we have to be at least 2 feet above the floodplain. We have the first floor habitable space at 2.5 feet above the flood. From a mitigation standpoint, we meet the mitigation requirements under Regulation 704. Again, as I noted, we have a reduction in the hardscape in the 50. Going through the calculations, we need 1,505 square feet of mitigation planting, which is what we're showing here. Again, salt marsh down here, this is existing vegetated area, so we're expanding the existing buffer off of the salt marsh to enhance that. The removal, this is lawn area, so this is all lawn being removed and will be revegetated with native buffer plantings. And then from the mitigation standpoint, from the floodplain, again, as I said, the entire lot's in the floodplain, but with house being rebuilt under the current building code, that obviously enhances the flood zone resiliency. As I mentioned, that the habitable space will be raised above the flood elevation by 2.5 feet. Smart vents added. And with the raised structure above flood and the smart vents, et cetera, that reduces the potential for storm damage, debris, et cetera. With the existing house, if there was a large storm like that, you could have damage to the structure. Whereas with the new reconstructed house, that would most likely be eliminated. There's no native vegetation being removed as part of this project. Again, it's all lawn area being mitigated, and then it's all within existing footprint. Again, slight increase here and here on the footprint of the house. Driveway is going to remain in the same location. Septic system generally in the same location, again, holding it close to the road and meeting current Title V requirements. And we believe we are meeting all the performance standards as identified in our narrative. And with that, I will turn it back over to the commission, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. The plan that you're seeing on the screen is a revised plan dated July the 3rd. So, any comment?
Yeah, let me just,
go ahead.
If I could, just real quick, the only revision was just based on Ed Hoop's request, which I got to remember to keep doing that in my initial submittal. We just added the demarcation along the limit of work per your boundary marker policy. That's the only change that was noted on that plan. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Bill?
It's funny that you mentioned the boundary markers. That was something I saw, and because of that, I'm highly supportive of this project. I mean, I think this looks good, and I'm assuming that you will not be mowing in the mitigation area. This will be allowed to grow wild, if you will, and I think it looks good.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
That's a quickie.
Any other comment from the commissioner? Angela?
Yeah, just quick, if you'll notify the office if there's change in mitigation plannings, because I noticed that you said that it may not be in the revised plan that you just got, but you said that you may be substituting some equivalent vegetation. That will notify Ed in the office. You'll clear that with them before you do that?
Yeah, if there's any plantings that are used that are other than called out in that planting schedule, absolutely, we'll coordinate with staff, 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner? Ed, do you have any comment on your planting, on the mitigation planting plan?
No, again, I think the overall area is good. Again, we will add the special condition for either letting it grow, naturalize, or they can also plant the area with the conservation seed mix in between the planted area. So, but I think it's all good.
Okay. Okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project with the revised plans dated July the 3rd, with the end of report for 3 years for the mitigation planting?
So moved.
Anyone second?
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Koshulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good luck, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Yep. The last NOI is Matthew and Danielle Cioletti's proposed pool, patio, and retaining wall at 429 Elliott Road, Sandyville, as shown on the Assessors Map 227, Parcel 109. Dan?
Good evening, Chairman Lee, members of the commission. For the record, Dan Ojala, land surveyor, civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport. And I'll share my screen to show this proposal. Here, we're helping the owners out with a small pool addition and hardscape. There's the overview is that we get through the house through a back away, an easement off of Elliott Road. It's a right of way that kind of curls around a small vegetated wetland. And the buffer has been disturbed in the past, is clearing down to the wetland. So we have an opportunity to restore that 50-foot buffer. The stated goal of your mitigation, your 50-foot buffer rule or 100-foot buffer rule is to revegetate that 50-foot as much as you can. And if we add new hardscape between the 50 and 100, you go at a 3-to-1 ratio where you add pull up or put down plantings, mitigation plantings in otherwise cleared or lawn areas. And so it works out pretty well here. It's sort of a win-win. The owners get a nicer buffer down there with over 2,000 square foot of mitigation plantings. And the commission can enjoy a larger buffer for the sensitive resource areas. This one has a flood zone AE10. It's a shallow bank, so it would be technically a state bank. It's just over the 10%, but not rising. It's not seaward facing, so it wouldn't be a local bank, but it's not steep enough either. And so the resource area is the flood zone and the bordering vegetated wetland, which we have had delineated and also matches an older plan. There are some mitigation plantings in this area here. You can see note 6 on the plan was referencing a vegetation restoration plan by Environmental Landscape Solutions about a year or 6/22/23, and that's an area which we're not taking credit for. And then we're also on this mitigation area here is detailed of with the hardscape calculations broken out as you like between deck, walkways, patios, and buildings. And you can see that the increase between the 50 and 100 net is only 676. So times 3 is 2,028. In the internal staff review and whatnot, they did mention the pool equipment. We had figured he might be outside the 100 with that, but he thought a better place might be to tuck it in the 50 to 100. So if you're so inclined, if we came up with, say 2 3x3 pads for the equipment, round up to 20 square foot, if we could approve it with 60 more square, 3 times that would be 60 more square foot of mitigation, that would round up to an even 2,100 square foot of mitigation. And we'll bump this fence back and show a few more points. And then note 9, we did put the mitigation area to be marked by wooden posts or rocks per the town guidance document, and we'll work with Ed to make sure that everyone's happy with that. So we've got we feel some good choices there: eastern red cedar, narrowwood, inkberry, flowering dogwood, to make a much nicer buffer. And it's a relatively small pool. There's a dry well to take care of the roof, the little bit of drainage that comes off of it, and a little bit of drawdown, but it's basically just like a little plunge pool. It's got an auto cover. The town still does have a requirement for a fence around it, so you can see there's a small fence area with the gates noted, and that's a local code requirement. But we feel it's a good project. You're getting only a little bit of hardscape and a lot of mitigation at your 3-to-1 ratio. So I think there's a lot to like here. And if you would be so inclined as to allow us to give you another 60 square foot of mitigation in lieu of 18 square foot or so of pool equipment, I think we would have a good agreement there. But I'd be glad to answer any questions meanwhile. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I think that would be part of the discussions as far as the pool equipment. The other things too, if we're doing a revised plan, typically what we need is the demarcation. Instead of a note, we should have a label on the drawing so we won't miss it. So it's easier for the staff when they do the COC. It's easy to look at stuff. Question from the Commissioner, Bill.
Yeah, this has shades of a project that we discussed maybe the last time we met. In this project, on the southwest side of the property, there is previous mitigation, and I understand that it was. They did plant some shrubs over there, but by and large, it really is not a well vegetated mitigation area. There's erosion. There's grasses that are very short. I wasn't sure if it was mowed or not, but I mean the grass looked to be quite short, and it really did not look like much of a mitigation planting zone. And again, that is from the previous for the previous work that was done. And so when I was there today, I was talking to the homeowner, Danielle, and I was explaining to her that, a mitigation area should have the properties of being able to filter out sediments and whatnot and other pollutants. And she was very, oh, that's great. And I mentioned it might be mowed, and it was unclear to me whether it had been mowed or not, but it's not a really, if you will, a healthy mitigation area. And there are some real obvious sweeps of erosion that are coming down through there. And I said, you could actually put up a little fence and keep, you just stay out of it completely. And she says, oh, can I do that? And I said, yeah, we can encourage having a little fence to keep people or whatever out of the mitigation zone. And I think that I expressed that, well, you have a nice mitigation plan coming up for this project, and I am supportive of it. But again, you want to let it run wild, and you want to create that fairly dense vegetation. And I'm okay with the project, but I do think that the mitigation should be well marked. It should have demarcation lines on it, and it really should not be mowed, and it should be allowed to grow wild. And if she wants to put up a little fence along demarcating it, that's fine by me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions from the Commissioner? None? Angela?
No, I just want to agree with Bill. I think the proposed mitigation will improve this area, so I'm not against this project either. I'm for it. I just wanted to ask Dan, where will you be putting the additional square footage of hardscape up by the area drain dry well?
Yeah, it'll be tucked in. It's one of those items that they don't enforce as a side yard setback. So it'll go, I don't know if you can, my cursor's awfully light, I apologize, but I'm looking at the pool and retaining wall overlay. I'll zoom in on it so you can.
But you're trying to keep it out of the 50-foot buffer.
100%, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's all. I just wanted that clarification.
Yeah, everything's outside of the 50. It's going to be kind of tucked in. I lost my cursor, but where it says proposed retaining wall in big letters, it'll be tucked right in there behind that wall, this area right here, north of the dry well.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions from the Commissioner?
Is it possible to, really ensure that there's no mowing in either of those mitigation zones? No mowing, just let it run wild? And can we encourage that in some way?
Yeah, if I could speak.
The mitigation area will be told that they'll be told it's no disturbance within the mitigation area. That's a standard special
Good
condition.
language, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the single rail fence will help, remind everybody to keep out of there as well. So we can extend that down across that other one as well. And so that will work out well on the revised plan.
Okay.
That'd be good.
I think it's no more comment from the commissioner, right?
Right.
Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to a receipt of a revised plan showing the demarcation as a label and the additional mitigation area for the pool equipment, and then an end report of 3 years?
With a fence along demarcating it, or some demarcation.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye. It's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your careful consideration. And I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Channel 18, can we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
We'll take a 5-minute break and come back on 7:55?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
That was good timing. We had a little thunder boomer go through right then, West Barnstable.
Oh, wow. You said we're supposed to get some pretty wicked storm tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of them are clipping and going across the bay. I guess Plymouth was hit earlier, but
Okay.
we got a good window.
Yes, I need a coffee too. Are we back with Pete?
Yep.
Okay. Who else is missing? Is Ed with us? Is Kim with us too?
Yeah, Kim's here.
Ed is not.
Yeah, well, no.
Jeffrey is here. Give another minute for Ed to join us first before we start. Ed is back. Channel 18, can we start?
All set.
Thank you. We have two continuants tonight. The first one is son of Eld Miswa to construct a dock, including a broadwalk, pier, ramp, and float at 251 Green Dune Drive, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Map 245 parcel 033. This is a continuance from April the 29th, and then a second continuance from May 27th. And the quorum is everyone except John. Jose.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Jose Picharo, representing the applicant. And here with me is also the applicant. We have David Waller, the legal advisor as well. At the last meeting, we had to go back to both of your advisory committees, the Shellfish and Waterways, to verify the use of a boat. We went out there. It has been approved. So both of your committees have approved the project twice. At this point, I think we have done everything to earn a positive vote tonight. And respectfully, we would like to request a motion to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Dave, you want to say anything or not?
Yeah, I mean, with respect to the, and having listened to the last hearing, with respect to the Waterways Committee, that was very thoroughly vetted. It was one of the more lengthy ones, and ultimately it was unanimously approved, except one member who I happen to represent recused himself for that purpose only. But the Waterway, went through. Initially, there was some issue as to location. I think there was some confusion, and when it was clear where the actual location is, it was pretty clear that there was no issues with navigation associated with the proposed dock as submitted.
Thank you, Dave. The comment from Waterway, just like Jose mentioned, that they approve it. The date is June 25th, and we also have the shellfish report from the town biologist. It's from Natural Resource, and this is dated April the 14th. It mentioned that the 251 Green Dune Drive is located in DMF/SC 26.0 and is the closed status prohibited, while there is only 12 inches of water on a plus 0.8 feet low tide at the end point of a pier, and habitat is seriously compromised. Any flow on the end of the pier in this location should have flow stops, so that the flow will not sit at the bottom and further degrade the compromised habitat. If there is any hope of improving this part of the creek, due to this significant poor habitat conditions, Natural Resources has no objections to the proposed pier at this current time. We also have the DMF letter dated April 29th. Basically, it's mentioning about the new pier has a potential to negatively impact of nearby surface resource area and fishery in a different way. While some of this impact can be avoided and reduced, and with best management practices, others are unavoidable and result in permanent impacts to shellfish habitats and associated fishery access. Support power would directly displace shellfish habitat, and power may cause further indirect impacts that negatively impact bordering shellfish habitat. Leachate from any pressure-treated woods used for supporting piles or decking may also negatively impact nearby shellfish. Associated boat activity could result in prop dredging if the float is installed in insufficient water depths relative to the size of the vessel using the structure. The support piles, floats, and adjacent footprint will likely not be accessible to commercial or recreational shellfish. Second is a DMF conducted two field study to assess the relationship between shading, marsh growth, and dock design. These study collectively indicated that the height to width ratio is 1.5 to 1 between the base and of the horizontal stringer, and the salt marsh reduced the shading and the marsh loss relative to the typical required 1-to-1 horizontal to width ratio. Current plans show a pier width of 4 feet and less than 6 feet of the clearance between the lowest stringer and the salt marsh. Current plans do not meet the 1.5 to 1 ratio recommendations. DMF recommended reducing the pier width to establish 1.5 to 1 height to width ratios for the pier decking access across the full extent that overlays the marsh. The next comment is the grounded flows can disturb bottom sediment, resulting in turbidity and direct impacts to benthic habitats. To minimize the impact, DMF recommends that the bottom of the proposed flow be at least 1.5 feet above the substrate over mapped shellfish habitat at mean low water. The entire flow is proposed does not maintain this minimum clearance at mean low water. DMF recommended installing a power supporter flow stops to maintain a 2.5 feet clearance above the substrates at mean low water. Next comment is, if approved, any activities requiring a barge should be restricted to 2 hours before and after the high tide to prevent barge grounding in mapped shellfish habitat. The last item is, if approved, the fuel spills from the refilling of the construction equipment will adversely impact sensitive resource area. Impacts to resource area can be avoided by prohibiting all ground-based equipment from being refilled on site. If equipment is refilled on site, adequate containment and cleaner material should be required to minimize impacts. Any questions from the commissioner?
I have
Bill, go ahead.
Having gone through all that, I'm a little confused. Are there going to be stops on the floats? The floats will not be grounding out. I heard that Liz Lewis and company
He froze.
have them. Are there?
Bill, you froze there. I didn't hear you.
You didn't hear me. Okay, I'll start again. Are there stops on the floats? Will the floats be grounding out? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can answer to that. Yes, so that's actually one of the revisions we did for the last meeting. Yes, we call for that. So it will be 1 18-inch at each one of the posts.
So the floats are not going to ground out.
Nope, it's going to stop right at mean low water elevation, providing.
Okay. So the float, and then the other is that the minimum depth between the substrate, existing grade, and the prop is going to be what? What's the distance?
It's going to be exactly 1 foot.
1 foot.
Yep. And,
and
we do have it. It is very shallow, but the boat, it's specifically designed and made for shallow water.
We have the boat actually has it's a Florida flats boat. It has one of the lowest drafts for any type of boat in that situation at 1 foot. It also has a joystick, so when getting in and out of the area, it's very easy to maneuver, and trying to get into a little deeper water quicker. But because of the design, it's essentially a flat bottom boat that will be used on Nantucket Sound. I mean, they'll have some navigation issues with that in Nantucket Sound because of the chop, but they're transferring that out for essentially a flats boat. There will be no fueling on site, as previously, as one of their questions was. Obviously, they'll have to go to a local marina to fuel up.
In the draft, you're talking about between the bottom, when the engine is down, to the
bottom of the prop. The bottom of the prop. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Jose, what is the date of this drawing? And Ed, do we have a copy of this drawing with the flow stops?
The date of the drawing is revised April 29.
April 29?
Revision B.
Okay.
Yeah, Jose, if you could provide 2 more copies. I'm looking through my numerous plans here. I only have 4 too, so if you could just make sure you give me 2 hard copies of that 429 plan.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, because I did not see that on my drawing, and the date is different. So, Pete.
Thank you very much for, so my concern pretty much all along was not just the shallowness at the dock itself, but is there enough depth of water for a full 12-inch getting out to the outside of Hall Creek, getting out into Nantucket Sound? Is there enough water for the entire length to get out?
Yes, and I can answer to that as well. So
go ahead.
What the data shows is that it will have at least 2 feet of water until it gets to the channel, where obviously it drops and the depths are between 3 and 6 feet.
Okay.
So it will have enough to go out.
Good. And that's at mean low water.
Yes. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
Let me try this. Could I have a motion to approve this project with a couple of conditions? Number 1, the water depth, a minimum water depth is a 12-inch below the prop. And then second is this is a revised plan dated April 29 with the flow stops at 18 inches, right?
Correct.
Anything did I miss?
No, I don't think.
Okay. So I make the motions.
So moved.
Anyone second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney. Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Hey
it.
guys, thanks again. I know you're volunteers, and you guys this board works more than anybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you for working with us.
Well, I'm getting paid. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you so much.
The second continuance is Cheryl J. Harkins to demolish the existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling, a pool, patio, and all associated premises at 38 Sandpoint Road, Austinville, as shown on the Assessors Map 073, Parcel 018. This is a continuance from June 24 without testimony, and the quorum is everyone tonight. John?
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. Also in the meeting room are representatives from Catalano Architects and Peter Stevens from Dan Gordon's office, who has been working with us on the landscape design. I will work to bring up the plan for you all. As was indicated, this project site is located at 38 Sandpoint. This is immediately next to the project we had earlier at 56 Sandpoint. We have just under an acre of land. It's developed with an existing house that was constructed in the 1920s. Our wetland resources, again, are land under ocean and a coastal bank, which is protected by an existing licensed bulkhead, and land subject to coastal storm flowage along it. The project as proposed is to demolish the existing development and construct a new dwelling with the proposed pool and patio and all associated appurtenances. The work is located in the buffer zones to the coastal bank. The project results in increased separation of the coastal bank, a reduction in footprint within the 50-foot buffer, a reduction in footprint in the 0 to 100-foot buffer. We had some comments from staff about potential concerns about the proposed pool location. So I just wanted to touch on that. The whole site design has kind of been working outward from the pool area. The goal of this project is to get the pool in the backyard. And they came up with a location for a pool that is mostly within the footprint of the existing dwelling, and the remainder of it being within the footprint of the existing patio. So there is no new disturbance at all associated with the proposed pool. And the house footprint has been designed to go landward, and significantly so that it could fit back there. As you can see, and more than half of the house is being shifted completely landward of where the existing was. And pulling, as I said, pulling everything further away from the bank, and working entirely within, existing hardscaped areas. It's our opinion that alone increased separation, reduction in footprints, represents an improvement in the buffer zones and to the resource areas. But based on the comments from staff, we have worked with the team, and we would be willing to offer. I did a revised plan. We did come up with some additional. There is no mitigation required because we are such a reduction in footprints here, but they are certainly willing to offer a buffer enhancement strip along the top of the bank. We've come up with an area that's around an additional 630 square feet. They've come up with a planting list, all at least 3 gallons. I haven't done the math here since earlier this afternoon, but I think it's 50 plus plants. We can add them up together. 57 plants to sort of supplement that buffer along the top of the coastal bank, which I think would further our position that this project will protect further the protection of all the conservation interests. I think with that, we are here and would be happy to answer any questions.
John, what is your date on this revised plan? Because we don't have a copy of this.
We do not have this. We got this planting list towards the end of last week, and so this plan is dated today by me.
Okay. Today is the 8th. Okay. Question from the commissioner, Angela.
Yeah, thank you. John, I'm just trying to be clear here. It sounds like you moved an entire house back to have a proposed pool that has to stay in that orientation, that you weren't willing to move it. Is that what you said?
That is our preferred location and orientation for the pool. And they were willing to move the house landward in order to get it in that location and that.
In the 50, they're moving an entire house so they can have some pool in the 50 and they don't want to move the orientation. I'm trying to summarize what you said.
Yes, this is the preferred location and orientation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner?
Yeah.
Yes.
John?
Yeah, John, as you know, going back over the last X number of years that I've been involved, I've always kind of felt that when you come in with a complete raise, that we then look at it as a virgin site. So that I've always had trouble saying, well, gee, I've struggled with the fact, well, it's an improvement over what's there, which you absolutely have a right to have, or even rebuild on that same footprint. But if you looked at this as a virgin lot, since it's a complete raise, the commission probably would have said, keep everything out of the 50. So I'm struggling. You know, I'd like to see, and I think Angela would probably jump in here, I would like to see, is there any way to get that bit of pool, pro spa area, et cetera, and pool out of the 50? Is there any design that you can come up with, the architect can come up with, that might be able to reorient that just to keep it out of the 50? So it's a question, I guess, really for Ms.
John,
if I said it right.
I think that we've had these discussions with the team, and it's the owner's strong desire for it to be in this location. And as I said, I think it would be one thing if this pool were located in some natural area, or, I understand the concern. We've had these discussions amongst the team, but where it's in the footprint of an existing house that we're then sliding landward that amount of distance so that we can fit it, and we're ending up not with our existing footprint, not redeveloping our existing footprint, reducing it. I just think that has to have some benefit.
It does. It clearly does. And I really struggle with this. I play a lawyer and say, listen, this is a greenfield site, so sorry, make the house smaller, move it more forward, do something else, keep it out of the 50. But I do struggle with reality, which is you also have a right to rebuild where you are and keep more in the 50. So this is an improvement over existing. And that's just a struggle that I have, John.
I understand.
That's all.
Right. And so I got to say, I agree with you, John. And my other issue would be the proposed patio that you're putting in the 50. That can't be either eliminated or made smaller. I'm just trying to find things that we can work with to get out of the 50, to make this easier to swallow, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when we are moving it all back and starting over. That's all I was asking.
So I guess the question, Angela, that I was asking is the architect. And I know owner preference, I respect that. But I'm wondering from an architectural point of view, if any of the things that Angela or I suggested could be looked at.
Sure. And Carrie Byrne with Catalan Architects, I'll speak up. I think we, as John O'Day mentioned, we explored several iterations that modified the footprint of the house, taking into consideration the pool. And, the goal here in working with the homeowners has really been to prioritize like a family space, and the kind of indoor outdoor living, the beautiful site that it is. And the other aspect is just some of the grading at the front of the site and kind of the entrance to that. And I realize, we can make that smaller, but in looking at the preferred program and what we are fitting here, and kind of access to the site and access to portions of the home, and taking into consideration the placement with respect to the bank, this is where we felt was a balance of having that all in mind, respecting some of the grading on the street side, while also reducing significantly the coverage in the 0 to 50. I guess all that to say, we've certainly explored a number of options, and this felt like the balance of taking all those aspects into consideration. Are there other things that we could do to maybe look at the precise layout of the hardscape with the team? Maybe we could look at that. I don't know, Peter and John, what other factors do you think?
No, that sounds correct to me. I mean, it's. I know it's outside the buffer, but we have slid the house quite a bit towards Sandpoint Road. We do have some infrastructure at the front of the property, which we can't avoid, and so that's. There's only so far we could push the house, but there was a desire to have a play lawn for the young kids in the backyard in conjunction with the pool. And patios, as they really enjoy their outdoor living space there. The existing residents did have a pool and spa outside the buffer zone on the front part of the property, and a very large lawn up there, all of which goes away and will all be planted out. So the only patch of lawn on the entire site will be the little bit in the backyard remaining. The rest will be all planted. And I do believe that, as John noted, this would be a significant improvement to the current condition of the buffer zones with this layout.
Can I just say something? I guess the hard part for me is you took a pool and spa that was even out of the 100, and now you're putting one in the 50. It just seems like counteractive, even though I know you're moving the house back. Do you see how that doesn't make sense when we're all trying to protect the 50? We just traded one thing we don't want in the 50 for another.
I understand.
But lessened it. And moved it away.
But refusing to lessen a little more is all. That's my point. I mean, we need to hear from the other commissioners. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Who's the other gentleman was talking about? Pete?
Yes, thank you.
Peter Stevens was who was speaking just before, and he's from Dan Gordon, who was working on the landscape design of this.
Okay, thank you. I just want to trying to identify who was that person. Pete?
Okay, so I actually am similar to my old friend of the board here, John Abadili, with respect to balance. And yeah, this is better than what's there now. But here's my but. I can appreciate that the pool, the presence of the pool, is the driving factor for a huge amount of engineering work here. So I'm not going to hit that. What I am going to make a request for is, again, within our 0 to 50, that's a pretty big sets of patios there. Between the patio and the pool, again, it's better than what's there now, but there's an awful lot of hardscape and or pool in that 50. So again, as Mr. Abadili said, it's a full tear down, and we treat that as a virgin site. So when I'm hearing my other commissioners say, it's hard for us, I'm hopeful that perhaps the applicant and their agent would say, well, yeah, we got some lawn in there, enough for the kids. We're putting in 600 or so feet of plantings. And I'm not seeing anything of great height there. But perhaps some of those patios could become lawn as well for the kids to play in. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Peak. Let me just jump in a little bit. When I first look at this plan, I was thinking about whether we can pull the proposed pool area back or orientate it a little bit so that, you still have to pull in, but minimize some of the patio area. I was thinking about also pulling out that spa inside the 50 to, outside the 50. And so that's what I was thinking about. Bill, do you have any comment?
I do. I was interested in John O'Day's latest plan here, which has some mitigation, and I was trying to understand it. There is something that looks like little rectangles that form, almost like hay bales. Is that a wall?
It's the existing patio wall.
It's like a patio wall.
Which we're going to put our limit of work hay bales.
So that's that wall that's there.
That's the wall.
I've been to the site, and so the mitigation plantings that you're proposing are towards the bay.
That's correct.
Below
They're really along the top of the bank.
And the idea of doing that additional mitigation, I totally support, and I hope you do that. Yes. I'm wondering if, is there some way of, with that patio wall, is there any way of pulling that back and just somewhat enlarging a little bit where it says proposed lawn, just creating more naturally vegetated buffer? Do you know what I'm saying? Is there any way? I mean,
I do.
The other commissioners are talking about taking out, like, maybe the what I'm looking at, the northern or the other one that says 20 elevation 21, taking out those proposed patios. You'd have, if you did that, you would have more lawn, and maybe you could create a little bit more buffer along there. The whole project currently is just like built right to the max. I mean, it's just provides, no filter capability to off the property as we typically like to provide.
I think we're hearing the comments, and I think it's, great feedback for us. And I think that, it would probably be in our best interest to take that back to the drawing board. And I think, the good news that I think I'm hearing is that we're not out for massive, and we appreciate that there is some benefit here, but if there's some other tweaks that we can do to minimize patio or increase buffer or some of both, that it might become a more palatable project.
Yeah, that's certainly what I would like as well. So sorry for jumping.
I would jump in. I think, John, that's a good summary of what I too would be looking for. And maybe the architect could use their great skills to come up with something.
I'm sure.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I visited the site with Bill, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, or John, everybody. There's not one stitch of grass on the water side of the existing house. Am I correct on that? Isn't the hardscape right up to the wall?
It's all patio in the backyard right now.
The wall.
All patio. Bill, to use your words, the filter, that proposed lawn area right there is really a no function area. I mean, it's not large enough to suit any purpose outside of aesthetic. From my standpoint, grandkids aside, period. Just make that a large mitigation filter area. Yes, no, or not a large, but whatever the proposed lawn area is, mitigation area. Filter it.
I would think, though, I heard them say that the kids want to have some lawn to play with, so I could sort of respect that. But then you start to look at all the patios. You start to look at where the pool spa is located, and you kind of wonder if some really creative thinking might be able to pull it back.
John, that lawn area you can barely put a 4x4 in that area.
I agree, Jeff.
There's no room for kids to play there. It's an aesthetic thing.
Yeah. Well, let the architect go back, see what they can do, she can do.
Right. Right. Any other comment from the commissioner? Seeing none. 10:18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. John, how much time do you need?
I'm certain that we can regroup here pretty quickly, but I believe you have a limited group at your next meeting. So
Next two meetings.
Next two meeting, we have limited, commissioner.
2 meetings. I missed that.
August 5th, we would be all assembled. Hopefully.
Yeah. Is that too long?
How many are at the other meetings?
4.
Oh,
Four.
both of them?
Yes.
And you need 3 positive votes, then.
Right.
3 out of the 4 would have to vote in favor, John, and get an approval, so. But the 4 best commissioners. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm not. Aim for the 22nd.
Carrie, I think our hands are kind of tied to going with that August 5th to have a group.
Okay.
So I think that we would request that date.
Okay. Good.
August what, Tom?
August the 5th.
Motion to continue to August the 5th.
Don't move.
Roll call.
Abedili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for your architect teams, and hopefully you guys can have some creative idea of how to help John out and the homeowner out. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have 2 easy certificate of compliance. The first one is Cape Beach House LLC SE3-6042, and the second one is Gail A. Casano SE3-5983. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Abedili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, that's unanimous as well, Mr. Chair.
We have 1 set of minutes, June 24th.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from June 24th.
Second.
Roll call.
Abedili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, that's also unanimous. The minutes have been accepted.
Thank you. Now we're going back to the first item under the old and new business. Is the annual elections of the officer. This is the July. So with Luis gone, we only have 6 commissioners left on the commissions. So we still need to fill 1 spot by the appointment committees. And we also have 2 reappointment that we don't know where we are right now at this point. So, John.
Yeah, Tom, I was thinking a lot about this. And you're right. I mean, we're down to 5 commissioners. We've got 2 commissioners that.
No, 6. We have 6.
6. My math was never my specialty, Kurt. We're down to 6, and then 2 commissioners are up for reappointment. And my understanding, Tom, is the town council appointments committee hasn't even set a schedule for that yet. I wish Charlie Bloom was on this so we could get some update as to why the delays. I mean, it's an untenable situation. And I know we annually elect the officers, but it's my feeling that we're in such a difficult situation with 3 possible vacancies in commissioners. My recommendation to the commission is that we just continue with the current officers. I know there's a vacancy. I'd ask Angela, who's clerk, also to be vice chairman for when Tom's not here. But I think if we could just go with that until the commission body gets settled, then we can have a reasonable conversation with 3 commissioners who are now back on the commission. But I just think it's premature given the situation we are in now. So I'd like to just keep things the way they are would be my recommendation. And Angela, if you would agree, I know it doesn't take a lot, to be vice chair unless Tom is out, and the secretary, the recording that you do.
No, I would be willing to do that on that basis of short term for us to move through as a group with the understanding that I have no aspirations to be chair, and I will fill in when Tom needs it, as you guys have done, and then Bill clerked when I wasn't there, or you guys helped me with the motions. As long as we're continuing to work as a group, I'd be willing to do that.
Well, I know I would commit, obviously, whatever support you needed when Tom's not here, although Tom makes 99% of the meetings. Anyways, just my recommendation. And I don't know if anybody else agrees or disagrees.
I agree.
I agree.
I would make a comment that I was thinking that it would be just continued, for a year or what have you. And I have asked Tom a couple of times. I said I'd be a clerk. So therefore, what you're proposing, I'm fine with that. If we know that after you guys are approved, we can then have another
discussion.
Because I'd be the clerk until we end up going back into public session if that were to happen. I understand there is no need for a clerk when we are in the town hall. Is that true?
You don't need to take a quorum, obviously. And the vote is usually by raising hands. So
right. So there's no.
We used to not have a clerk for many years, and then I'm not sure, Tom, whether it was you or Dennis or somebody started that. I don't recall.
Well, it was Dennis at the time, because he was stepping down from the vice chair to become clerk.
Okay, so it's Dennis who created that kind of a thing.
Correct.
So, what I'm saying is I'd be willing to and interested in doing that, but at the same time, if you just want to wait until you guys get cleared by the appointments committee, otherwise we're in total chaos.
Yeah, that's what concerns me, Bill. That's what I was thinking. I mean, they haven't even, and God bless their town council, but they've been critical of us from what Ed told me and explained, and I really resent that. I think they're wrong. I think they're unfair. But having said that, I'm also critical of them because we've got 3 potential commissioners that we need to approve or replace, and nothing seems to be going on. So, I mean, it's really difficult for this commission, and you know how much time and effort we put into this. I mean, a tremendous amount of time and effort. Anyways, that's a little frustration on my part, so I apologize for that. But anyways, that's my recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, we can revisit when we have when the full commission is fully on board, and then we'll take a look again.
So I make a motion that we just continue the current chairman, ask Angela to play a dual role until the commission is reestablished with its full complement or something like that. Whatever. That's my motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Kashulik?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. So that means when now Tom, for some reason, which I hope never happens, you're not there, I will chair and I can tap Bill to be the clerk, which is what happened in April. And that's what we're going to continue for the interim.
And if Bill's not available, ask anybody else to be a clerk.
Right. Well, I need all of you doing what you do right now because this works well. Okay, thank you. All right.
She's there, absolutely.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you. So, but I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Kashulik?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
Tangney, that's unanimous. It's 8:40, Mr. Chair.